Tom Burnham is with us tonight. He is Tom Burnham is a professor of English at Portland State University in Portland, Oregon, and he has compiled an amusing and very informative books called The Dictionary of Misinformation, which is a miscellany of misbeliefs and things that we have accepted as fact and so forth. Some of them have to do with the bicentennial. Would you welcome, please, Tom Burnham. Well, which... You know each other, yes.
I got caught in midair.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Which of these myths and misinformative statements should we shatter first? It's almost, you know, you grow up believing things all your life. Now you read this, and let's talk about terrible. The bicentennial.
All right, go ahead.
Oh.
One thing that you said at the beginning, by the way, was quite good. You said that Horace Greeley was reputed to have said, "Go west, young man," and you're quite correct. He didn't say it.
He didn't say that?
No, a young man in Indianapolis, or Indiana, said it.
And Greeley stole it, you mean?
Greeley, well, he didn't steal it. He didn't say he said it, but everybody else said he did.
So they attributed it to Horace Greeley?
Yes, Horace Greeley.
How about Betsy Ross and the American flag?
Well, I didn't know that Levi Strauss had actually... I was very interested in that. I hadn't heard that myself. No, the story was told as late as 1870, in time for the first centennial, by one of her descendants, who read a paper in Philadelphia, and the story, so far as I know, has never been corroborated by anyone else, so I'm a little suspicious of it myself.
Yeah. We tend to romanticize our historical backgrounds a good deal, to glamorize them somewhat, and some of our leaders, which seems to be rather chic nowadays to go back and pick out public figures and show their peccadillos and
yes.
That they're immortal like everybody else. Yes, let's go back just a few years. But like George Washington now and all of the things you see and throwing the dollar across the Potomac. Did you ever research that?
Oh, yes. And in the first place, he wasn't raised on the Potomac, but on the Rappahannock, which tends to destroy the story a bit. And of course, the currency was British. He may have thrown a pound note, I don't know. But he could not have thrown a dollar, no.
Why did you decide to write this book? Just because?
Well, you're up to your, let's say, ears in misinformation if you teach as long as I have. And then some time ago, I wrote a little piece for the Saturday Review called 100% Certified True Information I Am Tired of Carrying Around Because Nobody Believes It Anyway. It was a longer title than the piece itself, actually. And the publisher happened to see it and wrote me, and several years later, this ensued.
Now, are you going to tell me that Paul Revere didn't make that ride?
No, I'm going to tell you that he made several, as a matter of fact. He and his horse were very busy, as a matter of 2 or 3 different rides, actually. On one occasion, now this is a myth, I can't document it, but Sam Adams was not noted for staying in the same bedroom, should we say, all the time.
This is what I've heard, yes.
He was a bachelor, right?
Yes. Well, I'd better research that further. He acted like one, shall we say.
And Revere was supposed to wake him or
something? Well, I like to think that maybe a part of his mission was to tell Sam to get the hell out of there, but I can't swear to that, actually. He did make, however, a succession of rides, on one of which he was caught by the British, who took his horse away and let him go.
Is that true?
Yes, that's true. That's true. There were 2 other people involved, a man named Dawes and a man named Prescott. And it's my theory that Revere is a much easier name to use if you're going to write a rhyme. One of your own staff, Paul Block, suggested that with Prescott we'd have to say something like, "Come up close and button your waistcoat, and I'll tell you the story of Samuel Prescott."
Yeah.
With Dawes, it's even tougher. I don't know.
Dawes is kind of, yeah.
It will give us pause, and I'll tell you the story. Well,
but Revere has got a
Revere is good. Yes, it has a nice ring to it.
Nice ring there.
It rhymes with here, which is important to it.
No, we celebrate the 4th of July as Independence Day. Was that an arbitrary, capricious choice?
Oh, well, pretty much. Actually, the resolution was preliminarily adopted on the 2nd. It was voted on the 4th, but New York didn't get around to voting on it at all, as a matter of fact, till several days later. There really isn't any single date, as a matter of fact. One signer of the Declaration didn't get around to it until 1781, which is, 7 years later. So, a little, I thought, tardy of him.
So they just arbitrarily took the 4th of July.
Well, yes, the 4th was the day when the draft was approved by the
But see, that's got a nice ring to it, the 9th of July.
Yeah, I wouldn't...
For some reason now, maybe it's only because we're used to the 4th, but you say, hey, it's the 9th of July, doesn't... Now, that sounds silly, but if we'd have started at the 9th of July, it wouldn't sound silly at all, right?
I agree. But it just happened that way, and we picked the date, and this big thing you see in Washington with all the signers.
Right.
It took them, as I say, about 8 years to get around to signing it. with some of them signing, after the 4th, they drifted in and out. You
Right.
know. One guy never did get around to signing it, as a matter of fact, and he was one of the ones that drafted the Declaration, as a matter of fact.
And never signed it?
Never signed it.
Do you know who that was at all?
Gosh, what's Richardson, I think. I'm sorry, I can't offhand recall his name. It was not Jefferson, I know that.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the other just common things. Now, you have a thing about aphrodisiacs. You always hear there are such things as aphrodisiacs, food, perfumes. I remember when I was a kid, first time I heard Spanish fly, I didn't know what it was, but boy, they said if you ever get some Spanish fly, boy, you're in like a porch climber. I mean, it was the gateway to heaven, and I didn't know what that was. Finally, I found out later it's something that they use for cattle, is it not?
It isn't even very good for them, actually, but it's very, very bad for human beings.
What is it, actually?
Oh, it's the wings of a beetle ground up. I mean, if you really want to give your loved one some beetle's wings and see what happens, fine, but I'm afraid it'll make her very sick.
How does that start, something like that?
I don't know.
Are you able to trace these things back?
Oh, partly, I guess, that we enjoy lying to each other, I suppose. And partly that we like to make things sound better than they really are sometimes, I guess. And partly that we seem to have an instinct for things that just ain't so.
Yeah, magazines, especially magazines like Cosmopolitan, at least once every 2 months, have an article on aphrodisiacs, you know, to turn your husband into a tiger or something.
I know. If I wanted one, I think I'd hire Doc Severinsen's orchestra to play soft music in the background. That's probably as effective as anything that you could buy.
How about some of the fairy tales?
Cinderella, I suppose. That is what you had in mind, I think. Yes.
Yeah, it was one of the illustrations.
Her slippers are always said to have been made of glass in the common version of the story, but the version we have comes from the French, and the French word for glass and the French word for fur happen to sound exactly the same there. So apparently, since all the other versions of the story have her in fur, we simply misunderstood the French word, and we have her in those miserable, uncomfortable glass slippers, when actually they are fur, and there are hundreds of other variations.
This is a book called The Dictionary of Misinformation by Tom Burnham. This is a fascinating book to read just before you go to a party. Then you can drop these little tidbits in during the night and have a great conversation. Tom, I thank you for being with us.
Thank you.